Face the reality. Sounded drums. Rastafari. Copyright Wisemind Publications, 2009. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Wisemind Publications. Face the Reality, Sounded Drums, written by Rastafari, edited by Empress Catrice McClure, proofreading Danielle Kreft, cover design and layout by Ross Ravenai, published by Wisemind Publications, distributed by Wisemind Publications. Contact wisemindpublication@gmail.com. Wisemind Publications. Table of Contents. Be Still, page 5. Hold the Order, page 7. Moments in Time, page 8. Straight Up Community Building, page 12. The Ivine Government of Rastafari, page 14. The Words of Ancient Congo Watu, page 17. Trot Up, page 19. Beyond the Ego and the Hype, page 21. Hot Fire, page 24. No Easy Road, page 27. The 78th Coronation Anniversary of Haile Selassie and Empress Menen, page 29. Wisemind Publications. Copyright Ross Flacco Tafari. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced or stored without prior permission of the publisher. Nyabingi Fire. Be still. They know not the Almighty Jah Rastafari, neither will they ever stand. They walk in darkness. All the foundation of the earth is out of course. I have said you are Rosses, and all of you are the children of the Most High Jah Rastafari. But you shall die like men, and fall like the princes. Arise, O Jah Rastafari, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. Psalm 82, 6-8. Many things are being spoken of Kidamawi Haile Selassie. Many rumors are still spreading. I see Doubtful Thomas clearly having a field day. Know that the righteous will have nothing to fear. Even some are being magnetized to be Rastafari over land and sea, but they will have to purge themselves of the old wine of mental slavery brewed by the colonial masters, and now rise to the heights of Rastafari. Consciousness. Those who have plotted against Kidamawi Haile Selassie have also failed. Check this. A news release on January 7, 1990 from London reveals a plan by the British government to ask Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia to deny officially that he was God. The colonial authorities hoped this statement would curb the growth of Rastafari movement in Jamaica. Two successive governments of Jamaica were anxious to attack Rastafari because of their belief in the divine status of the emperor. The first government accuser was General Foote, and later Lord Caradon. On August 16, 1956, General Foote wrote directly to the Ethiopian ambassador in Addis Ababa, relaying a request from the authorities in Montego Bay for a refutation of the claim that Kidamawi Haile Selassie was God. The ambassador in Addis failed to reply, and General Foote's successor, Kenneth Blackburn, began to prod the Foreign Office into action. On June 10, 1959, Blackburn wrote a long letter about Rastafari movement to the Colonial Secretary. Blackburn then expressed optimistic hopes of getting a result. On April 21, 1966, Kadamawi Haile Selassie made a state visit to Jamaica and opened the seals, thus releasing the colonial chains. On the day of his visit, a massive crowd of Rastafari greeted him at the airport, led by the ancient Mortimer Plano. It was the largest crowd to congregate in the history of Jamaica. In responding to some personal questions, Kadamawi Haile Selassie said, "Holy priests, warriors, and traitors, I am he." The respect and seriousness of the visit of Kadamawi Haile Selassie that was given by the Jamaican government and the media enabled many Jamaicans to access the validity of the Rastafari movement, thus giving it credibility with global impact. So wise up now and know thyself. Seen? Hold the order. The former years of the Rastafari uprising were more of an oral tradition, with a biblical oratory of psalms and prophecy, along with the grounding of brethren and sistren around the Fayaki. The symbolic passing of the Hola Chalice on the right side was also a prominent feature of the Iwa. Changing trends in Rastafari people are now seen in this Iwa of science and technology. More Rastafari Idrin are allowed in school. More Rastafari intellectuals are rising. More are using cyber networking as a means of knowledge sharing. However, the faithful ancients are still holding the order. The fundamental doctrine that Kadamawi Haile Selassie Jah Rastafari remains the same now and forever. However, sections of the livity have been changed according to the awareness of ones and ones. The important utterances of Kadamawi Haile Selassie, now presently available today, have broken the spells of illusion and false hope of the depressed. The gift of Shashamane by Kadamawi Haile Selassie, which Rastafarians are failing to reap substantial benefits from, have shown that the Zion concept of Ethiopia was not analyzed properly. Thus, the opportunity to build the Rastafari nation on Ethiopian soil was squandered. Give thanks for the many have gone before on the land and are still holding the order. Some youths wearing dreadlocks, even those who are reggae musicians, have twisted the doctrine in their favor. They straying away from the anciency and have created a different trend of thought. If this trend continues, it will create a negative impact on the movement. With Wisemind, I strive to maintain the set order. Moments in time. So long as the spirit of Africa prevails and stirs within us, so long as we continue to think and work and act within the African context which we have created, imbued by the African atmosphere which surrounds and pervades us, we are confident that the goals we seek shall be attained. We have created this spirit. It is our child. An utterance of Kadamawi Haile Selassie. So many have forgotten these ites within Rastafari tradition, and I-Man would now say that the mandate of Rastafari houses, mansions, and organizations should be to enable the visible creation of Rastafari inspirations and ensure the preservation of Rastafari traditions and anciency. The Nyabingi and Bobo Shanti houses have maintained the high standard of ancient churchical traditions within the order. Give thanks. Nonetheless, there are other neglected areas of the trad that must be collectively dealt with, such as Rastafari governmental administration. The Rastafari Iaric is now fading into the background of Rastafari oral communication. Only a few ancients utter words within that language format. Always remember that word sound is power and must be used in the right context. The establishment in Jamaica reeled as Rastafari blasted the unjust society with fiery flames of judgment during the 50s and early 60s. Those were the turbulent years when the Rastafari theocracy felt it was the duty to remind the people of their departure from Ethiopia as captives into slavery, and of the folly of not coming together in love and unity to save their African selves. During those years, Rastafari roamed the streets of Kingston, issuing forth a seemingly never-ending stream of condemnation upon the hierarchy of the island. They dwelt in the marketplaces, lecturing and educating the people, wearing Icris bag shirt and walking barefoot. Mockery and scorn were upon them as they were spat on, forced into starvation, had to eat the seeds of ginnips and suck green limes in order to sustain life. They were jailed and beaten, but persisted by making new word sounds and new chants out of their tribulation, which heightened the fervor. The hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory. And no weapon that is made can prevail against I, was the cry. The media portrayed the Rastafari and his word sound as half crazy. However, these word sounds were the butt and scorn of the establishment. The Ites gold and green emblem was always unfurled wherever Rastafari was present, thus maintaining the necessary pressure on the system. The judges were also confronted with the Iaric speaking that Rastafari brought before them. Rastafari used court appearances to prove the sacredness of the Holy Sacrament. They often tried the judges who were supposed to be trying them, and found these judges guilty, just like the prophet Marcus Garvey, for crimes against the people. In jail, the Rastafari continued the work of redemption and spread this way of life, making new converts who realized themselves to be Rastafari, and so the faith took wings and spread to four corners of the earth. Now, the African cause is a reality and long-gone commitment of Rastafari to address. This can only be done collectively. Repatriation is a must, and Africa awaits its creators. Yes? Or is this just sentimental? Many have started a migration process, their own fact-finding missions. It is all good, and others will follow as the progress reports start to surface. It's time to step out of Babylon while you can. Set some plans to do so. Seen, Faya? However, I should not forget that intense political power struggles are being carried out on the motherland. There should be no illusion about the lion and lamb in your headspace. Now, Rastafari in this time cannot turn their backs on the African Revolution, which is the challenge that faces I today. So many voices will shout, I man no involved in politics. Yet, I and I are now faced with the crisis of the society, which is violence and economic depression. Rastafari should now be more involved in change that would reverse the deterioration of the living standards of the people in the diaspora and in Africa. It is not an easy task. Know that Rastafari had presented themselves as the voice of the down-pressed. Thus, there should be no relent now. Seen, Aya? The politicians of the day stand on a foundation of generalship as they compromise with their power brokers who bask in stolen legacies of other countries. The Rastafari movement has survived over 50 years of social and religious intolerance, discrimination, and harassment. Thus, the Rastafari movement has now become a part of world history. Give thanks for all the ancients who had the vision and determination to blaze a hot fire upon Babylon. Now is the Iwa for Rastafari youths to make good their legacy. And the picture is Kidamawi Haile Selassie. Straight up community building. Now, my family, the trod is not for the weak heart, the doubtful, and for the one who mistrusts. Know that the mighty will fall in a moment of sudden destruction, and only a few will be left standing to behold Jah's glory. Kidamawi Haile Selassie stated that, in the world of today, community development is universally recognized as a process designed to create conditions of economical and social progress for the whole community, with active participation and upon the initiative of the community. Some will take time out to burn Babylon left, right, and center. Jah man, when I check the system, I find the sick mentality that has created starvation of the innocent, murdering of the helpless, and wars of mass destruction created by misguided governments. The philosophy that has given power to you and me must go. The only power that mankind has is horsepower. All know that all the power belongs to Jah Rastafari. Power be to the lightning, thunder, brimstone, fire, and lava. So who among you will stand up when they are all angry? We must all respect Mother Earth for the wonderful gifts and build our own safe, sustainable communities. Once more, I will sip from the utterances of Kidamawi Haile Selassie, who states that community comprises of two important elements. One, the participation of the people themselves in effort to improve their levels of living with much reliance as possible on their own initiative. Two, the provision of technical and other related services in ways in which encourages initiatives, self-help, and mutual aid to make these more effective. Self-help is the quintessence of community development programs. It is, therefore, essential that initiative and desire for development should emanate from the people and not to superimpose it from the outside. It is, of course, the primary task of community development workers to motivate and stimulate the people to cross barriers of apathy and helplessness. Now, Congo Nati, most of I have attended Babylon's institutions of learning. Some of I are even streetwise, equipped with the tricks and trades of the knowing how to do, when to do, and what to do. I must now employ all this combined knowledge and skills for Rastafari development. If we all claim to be Rastafari. For real fire. This is not the Iowa to weep and lament. When I remember Ethiopia, the land of our ancestors, for the wicked have carried I away in captivity, chanting their strange songs. How much longer will I remain mentally subdued in this land of the slaves? But through the benevolence of Kidamawi Haile Selassie and Empress Menen, I have gained Wisemind, knowledge, and overstanding to step out of Babylon. Therefore, with this intelligence, I must not hesitate to make I own meaningful contribution, physically, academically, financially, and put a stop to this beggar grumbling. It's time to show Babylon I true worth by our creation of institutions, monuments, and worthwhile projects through community development. Let's all strive to be independent, self-sufficient, and more resourceful in the coming years. The Ivine Government of Rastafari. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof. Revelations 5:5. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Revelations 17:4. I take this Iowa to salute some prominent warriors of the Trod. Robert Athley Rogers, author of the Holy Pibby. The Reverend Fitz Ballantyne Petersburg, author of the Royal Parchment Scroll. Leonard Howell, author of The Promise Key. Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Joseph Nathaniel Hibbert. Robert Hines. Archibald Dunkley. Congo Watu. Prince Emmanuel. Sam Brown. Bongo Time. Bongo Rocky. Mama Baby Eye, and Prophet Gad. From the Mini Groundation in Jamaica, clarity was brought to many Rastafari concerns. As such, ancient Congo Huai presented the Ivine government of Rastafari Omega Tafari Tribunal Council. This is part 1 of the document. Trading from beyond the absolute creation begat a family in Timan, set an order in Bozrach, created the universal constitution in Zion. Driven intelligence and culture out of heaven, cast out Adam and Eve from paradise into hell, grave. Crown King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of himself, the power of authority in Ethiopia. The Ivine government come to destroy democracy and his hydro-headed tentacle, which are politics, religion, and commerce. Rastafari government is the only universal authority. Rastafari is the only creator there is. He is eternal. He never began, or will he cease to be. Rastafari is perfect and is completely satisfied and at peace with himself. He is the only directive authority in the universe. I, the counselors of his Ivine government, are always aware of our immediate oneness to Rastafari, because of the glory of I meditation. I are immune to negative suggestion. Rastafari give thanks. I is perfect, and know Rastafari divinity, which is a sacred refuge in the holy place, where spiritual qualities contact and become a link of the indwelling Almighty Rastafari Omega Tafari. Being subjective, I cannot analyze its power of authority. I must always accept its spiritual vibes, which meet the laws of cause and effect, working through the medium of the universal temple, which is the creative principle of sacred, spiritual, and divine qualities, commanding Rasta unto Rastafari, working through temples. This is one temple of the universe, which is Rastafari and Omega Tafari. Within this temple is included all lesser temples. Temple means the entire manifestation of immortal qualities. The temple is distinguished from flesh and blood. The physical universe is the temple of Rastafari, the visible principle of life. The temple is incorruptible. It expresses compassion, humility, and obedience. Rastafari is not only the supreme creator deity, he is the immutable living masterpiece. He ordered creation to come forth through the power of his word. Since Rastafari is pure, divine, and incorruptible, I become endless temples. Rastafari spoke of his divine government, which is also in himself, that I should take no active part or indulge on man-made product. The Ivine theocracy, which is the refuge for all the various Rasta mansions, says, "Thou shalt take no active part in crown, nor titles, nor man-made institutions." These are selective concepts. Ivinity taught us spiritual diagnosis. I are the 7,000 sheep-like temples that trod from the pre-dawn of creation. I are conscious of I self before the creation of man-made system, which is their ultimate reality: disease, pain, aging, and death. The words of ancient Congo Watu. The order of the Nyabingi is built on a strong foundation of self-sacrifice and the determination to fight for African liberation and independence from foreign rulers and dictators, thus reversing the mental slavery. The early patriarchs and matriarchs have rejected the colonial system and masterminded the alternative now experience in the liberty of Rastafari. The history of Rastafari is blessed with the works of many ancients who have laid a strong foundation, despite the many setbacks and hardships created by the Babylonian system. Now is the Iwa to evaluate I position, set I path for strong economic development, and claim the victory of good over evil. Ancient Congo Wato states, Africa is the foundation of the world, the first embryonic place upon the face of creation that man could exist. I took up my banner in 1947 and started to go about the street following the footsteps of my brother, the footsteps of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. I have studied Marcus Garvey's philosophy and saw it was the true light of the black people. He was one of the first prophets of Jamaica that enlightened the people morally towards Africa, to bring the people to the standard and knowledge that Africa was our ancient foundation, and what brutality we have suffered that has caused us to be in Jamaica and scattered over the four wings of the earth. So Marcus Garvey suffered a great deal. We, the Rastafarians, have come to declare the policies of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I. 5 of our brethren took up their banner along with their knowledge of the Bible and unto the streets, realizing what the situation is among our people, and the spirit of truth really written upon us. As youth, we called ourselves the Youth Black Faith, because in the early days we used to receive pamphlets about Ethiopia from Sylvia Pankhurst, an English woman who used to be the right hand to His Majesty's palace. Those pamphlets were received every month in the years 1945 to 46. Each pamphlet was printed with the words Ethiopia Black International. So it explains how we got the name Youth Black Faith. During those periods on the streets, we suffered police brutality and imprisonment. In those days, we could not wear red, gold, and green buttons. The emblem had to be wrapped very neatly so that no one could see it. If a man wore locks on his head, he was scorned, so no one respected him. No one looked on him. Those whom you were acquainted with put you aside instantly. Now concerning the position as regards the faith and administration coming through the ages, we have got brethren who took up the struggle through the Ethiopian World Federation, who toiled for this cause. But the majority of the strains, stress, and anxiety fell upon the dreadlocks Rastafarian. Now today we see that the dreadlocks, brothers and sisters, are spread over the earth by the power of the Almighty. We have to give His Imperial Majesty thanks and praise. Remember the teachings of prophecy, which is a scroll. I am bidding all brethren and sistren who take up these footsteps, don't leave this until when you reach the river Euphrates. Then you can bind it and cast it off into the river Euphrates and say, down with Babylon, who rose up against Ethiopia. Extract, Boanerges Rastafari Focus, 1986. Trot up. Learning never ceases. Your learning has just begun, and its end will come only when your work has proved rewarding. Kedemawi Haile Selassie. Many have started this trod and have become confused along the way, with many more frustrated, making fools of themselves. Others stand for righteousness, justice, and equality, the liberation of the enslaved minds. So Mystery Babylon gets defeat as more locks start growing, flashing, and flying. Dreadlocks dread in a Babylon. Move ya! The Bengi lions roar around the rainbow circle throne, yet the lioness are not intimidated by their presence, as they uphold their dignity, pride, and honor, while releasing the Omega powers to create the necessary balance. So the lionesses ask, what future is there for Rastafari children among the smoking flocks, the militant warriors, and the iridical angels? The children are innocent souls and must be exposed and grown in a healthy environment. So why engulf them with herbs from infancy? Is this a new ritual? I know it is not the ancient ways. Many smoke to get a high, smoke to build a vibes, smoke to socialize. With this trend, there will be mixed moods and attitudes. The Bingi lion will roar against drawn battle lines. Tempers will rise if the order is not maintained. Maybe the herb is not good, or just not ital. Watch yourself. The palace lions will be prowling, so be of good conduct. Now, my family, introducing the herb or the holy sacrament to the youths at an early age can give wrong impression and create bad habits. Who will monitor their smoking habits? Who monitors what is added to the smoke? Can you guarantee it is ital? What meditation do they hold for the King of Kings when they smoke? The real Rastafari warriors on the battlefield are now required. Not just ones and ones who wants to ites up in their heavens and just hold a meds. Teach the youths the rights of the trod. Position them in key places educationally. Prepare them for the baton change of leadership so that they can stand up and fly the emblems. Is that too much to ask of them? The battle is not yet won, and many are basking in small victories. So arise, all fallen fighters. Rise and take your stand again. Never fight and run away. Just stay on fighting each and every day. I now know, as David slew Goliath, good will conquer evil. Jah Rastafari. Beyond the ego and hype. Perfect love and blessings in the house of Kidamawi Haile Selassie and Empress Menen. The utterance of Kidamawi Haile Selassie is the breath of life for those willing to live upful and right, and not dwell in the shadows of others. The sages have stated, when the student is ready, the master will appear. Many are still pondering and stressing themselves to find out who Kidamawi Haile Selassie is. So take care now not to pollute the earth with bad thoughts and actions. Always remember that there are set laws that govern the earth, and I are just sojourners by the grace and abundant mercies of Jah Rastafari. Yes, I man will take this Iwa to share an important utterance of Kidamawi Haile Selassie. The long and great history of our country demonstrates that our people have always both administered and lived according to law. Our people were at the first ruled by the Mosaic law, but after the event of Christianity of Ethiopia, they came later to be governed by the Fetaha Negast, a work combining both spiritual and secular matters, the former part pertaining to the spiritual and latter to the temporal affairs of our people. The Fetaha Negast has been venerated, supported, and applied by both the government of our empire and by the Church. The names of scholars learned in the law are famous in the history of Ethiopia, particularly since the reign of Emperor Zara Yacob, when both the study and enforcement of the Fetaha Negast began. By the providences of the Almighty, this bulwark of the law was preserved for our people. Venerated by many centuries, it provided for our people an invaluable source of legal principles. When we ascended our imperial throne and enacted a penal code compiled on the basis of the Fetha Nagast. We made all necessary provision for the printing of the Fetha Nagast, in order that it might be available to our people. Owing, however, to the invasion of our country by the enemy, the copies which already had been printed but not distributed were burnt together with the printing press. With the assistance of the Almighty, we returned victorious to our country and subsequently made provision for the codification of our laws, realizing that those who had helped us in the codification had availed themselves of the provisions of the Fetha Nagast. We ordered that the text be printed together with a commentary thereon, and offered to our people for their assistance. We were pleased that this great work, for so many centuries the basis of law and the administration of justice in our country, is now under the faculty of law of the university to which we have given our name, and is being translated into English so that it may be known to scholars of other countries. No modern legislation which does not have its roots in the customs of those whom it governs has a strong foundation. The effort that has been made by the faculty of law to disseminate the knowledge not only of the new codification, but also of the historical rooted legal practices of the Ethiopian, which by the providence of the Almighty we have preserved, and which are the source of our new legislation, is benefiting and deserving of our warmest approval. Given at our imperial palace in Addis Ababa this 29th day of August 1968, Kedemawi Haile Selassie, Emperor of Ethiopia. Hot fire. One perfect love and blessings in the house of Jah Rastafari and Empress Menen. I have seen many Rastafari fighting for power, but know not the hour. They all seem to be fighting for a parcel of land in Babylon. That will not solve I problem. It never did in the past, and will not change now. Begging political favors will not solve I problems. Remember, never let a politician grant you a favor. They will always use you forever. Seen Faya? There seems to be a game going on of who will outsmart who, or is it one of who will bell the cat? I'm trying to figure it out. There are many hidden agendas that were once stored in the headspace, now seem to be exposed in the open. Is this an ambush, a coup, or an open attack on your own people? The All Mansions organization will eventually lose its stripe of integrity if this trend is allowed to continue. They all seem to be running mini red lights on the trod. Very soon, their aspiration for Rastafari leadership will blow up in smoke. Or maybe they don't care what the global Rastafari family think about them. They all seem to be so comfortable splashing their internal disputes across the four corners of the earth. Hot fire. Check it. The concept of Rastafari is not me and you or me against you. It is a concept of integrity and righteous commitment to progressive and upful living and divine governance. Some individuals will foolishly allow position in administration to get into their heads. Many are not governed by a code of conduct, and therefore it becomes a free-for-all mentality, or the man with the most clout rule. These are the same ones who will eventually stand on the floor at the detriment of the organization. Many have not adopted any example of leadership set out by Kedemawi Haile Selassie. So how do they expect to lead I? The wise will always avoid the path of sudden destruction, and be among the few elected to carry on the duty of African liberation. The internet should not be used to splash Rastafari internal disputes. It is time to wave the red flag of disgust. It seems like some have no shame and delight in the newfound fun. Well, it is not funny. These so-called leaders, self-appointed to say the least, really have a big ego. However, they will soon realize the damage they have caused. Or maybe they won't. They seem not to recognize the importance of public relations or international relations within their organization. Who will do the damage control now that the bird has flown the coop? It will be difficult for any Rastafari organization to get membership, to be accepted, or to represent the Rastafari diaspora interests if these distasteful and unpleasant acts keeps surfing the net. Rastafari fight must not or should not be for an outpost on an island. The fight must be for the mass movement for African liberation. The fight for repatriation and reparation is not on the horizon, and internal strife will not bring it any closer. I-Man just can't see the logic for the behavior of those who were entrusted with the governance of Rastafari affairs. The camp is being invaded, and many now find themselves fighting over scraps of food that cannot satisfy the hunger of those who were deprived of it for over 500 years and counting. It's full time to be about my Father's business, and not be blinded by one's and one's reflection in a flash of power struggle. More fire. Who the cap fit? No easy road. Kedamawi Haile Selassie states the following: the emphasis which we have given to education in our country has stemmed from our determination to eliminate ignorance and prepare our people for the changes which Ethiopia's emergence into the modern world would bring upon them. It is also axiomatic that change begets change, that each step forward leads logically and inexorably to the next. Once unleashed, the forces of history cannot be restrained, and he is naive who says, "Thus far and no further." The armed struggle against colonial invaders in Kigezi in southwestern Uganda, bordering Rwanda and Zaire, was the early beginning of Nyabingi Trad from 1910 to 1930 until this Iowa. In Kigezi, the inhabitants produced their own shelter, food, and tools for production. They developed their own barter trade, along with exchange of gifts. The inception of colonialism was through the assistance of local agents as soldiers, and chiefly it introduced forced demands such as expropriating people's land and usurping their independence. All these were bitterly opposed by the peasants. This gave rise to various armed struggles, mainly under the Nyabingi movement. The colonial state applied maximum force in retaliation, while the missionaries gradually came to play a significant part on the ideological front. The Nyabingi today has to rise above the harsh reality of colonialism and neo-colonialism and create a new hope and vision for the marginalized people so that their daily lives can be more productive and worthwhile. Many will reason that the trod is a way of life, but within this way of life, there are religious practices that cannot be denied. The Naya one will always chant down Babylon, like it or not. There is no place for the weak heart. There is always joy in the heart of the righteous one. You see what I mean, Faya? Religion must be studied concretely in each social setting. The role of religion can be measured against historical, social, political, and economic realities, along with the material conditions that gave rise to it. There is no escape route from this. Many preach the religious concept of external saviors, along with the expectation of a miracle. They all are ignoring the power of Jah within the eye. Seen? There are so many enslaved minds, drunk with the old wine of deception. They now arm themselves with teeth and tongue, while creating the master plan to secure the wealth of others. Their promise is a coveted trip to heaven in the sky. No peace of mind for many searching and lost souls, you know? It is historically documented that those who are most deprived, most exploited, and oppressed often fail to conceptualize correctly on their situation and then translate it into struggle. Therefore, there is a need to broaden alliances and unification between the various Rastafari groups and not allow them to fend for themselves against the bearing down forces of society. Self-reliance is the highest science. However, this takes careful study and planning, along with guidance and cooperation for its success. Education is the greatest tool in hand for I progress and posterity. I should make the best use of it. Rastafari consultants are required in key business areas. With this growing population of Rastafari angels, I must create I own market force, naturally driven from I talents. Is that asking too much? The 78th coronation anniversary of Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen. It was the anniversary of the 78th coronation of His and Her Majesties, Kidamawi Haile Selassie and Empress Menen, on the Pitfor Nyabingi grounds, and nature seemed to agree that the weather should be appropriately fine. The High Priest George Irons came forward in the midst of the anxiously waiting congregation with prayers of thanksgiving, while the Nyabingi angels echoed the name Jah Rastafari, Jah Rastafari in solemn reverence. The Ethiopian anthem was then chanted. Ethiopia, the land of our fathers, the land where our Jah loves to be. As the swift clouds are suddenly gathered, thy children are gathered to thee. With our red, gold, and green floating over us, with our emperor to shield us from wrongs, with our Jah and our future before us, I hail, I shout, I chant. These mystical sounds reverberated round and about in the early morning, as it prepared the elects for the special occasion. The first narrator, Rasase, then proceeded by reading a preview of the 1930 coronation ceremony, which was continued by Ras Ivai. The solemn I chant rose steadily within the joyful shouts of Jah Rastafari. Then Ras Garth commenced with a slow and timely repetition of the words of the 122nd Psalm. I was glad when they said unto me, Let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet shall stand within thy gates. O Jerusalem! Jerusalem is built as a city that is compact together, whether the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, unto the testimony of Israel, to give thanks unto the name of the Lord. The narration then continued by Ras Ivai and Ras Sase. Ye princes and ministers, ye doctors and chiefs of the clergy, ye professors and priests, look ye upon the Emperor Haile Selassie I, descendant from the dynasty of Menelik I, who was born of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, a dynasty perpetuated without interruption from the time of King Sahle Selassie and to our time. To him you give all obedience, not in deeds only, but even with your hearts. Then the reading of Psalm 72 proceeded by the visiting priest, Ras Ion from Barbados. Give the king I judgments, O Haile Selassie I, and I righteous man unto the king's son. Haile I, Selassie I, shall judge the people with righteousness, man and the poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to I, the people and the little hills by I, the righteousness man. Haile I, Selassie I, Rastafari, shall judge the poor of the people. Haile I, Selassie I, Rastafari, shall save the children of needy. Haile I, Selassie I, Rastafari, shall break in pieces the oppressor. I shall fear the I, Haile I, Selassie I, as long as the sun and the moon I dure. This was followed by the Rastafari family chanting the Nyabingi Creed. Princes and princesses must trod out of Egypt. Ethiopians now stretch forth their hands to Jah. O Jah of Ethiopia, Ivine Majesty, thy irids trod unto I to dwell in the paths of righteousness. Lead I. Help I to forgive that I must be forgiven. Teach I love and loyalty on earth as it is in Zion. Endow I with wise mind, knowledge, and overstanding to do thy will. Thy blessings to I, O Jah. Let the hungry be fed, the naked clothed, the sick nourished, the aged protected, and the infants cared for. The royal treasurer, Ras Iri Lion, then came forward and placed on the altar 10 ounces of pure gold, the offering of the emperor to the church. Following this, Ras Alta Joe stepped forward and read the 48th Psalm. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountains of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, on the side of the north, the city of the great King. Then followed 10 Nyabingi daughters, fully robed in white apparel, with voices raised in melodious chanting of Ayaniah Hail Jah, Hail Jah, Hail Jah, Rastafari. The reading of Psalm 80 by Ras Flacco Tafari then proceeded. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubim, shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy strength and come and save us. Turn again, O Jah, Rastafari, and cause thy face to shine upon I, and I shall be saved. Once more, Bongo Mani let the flow of the incense perfume the gorgeous background round about the tabernacle. Then there came a moment for utter silence, as ancient Bongo Ken came forward with the sword of Solomon. The narration then continued. With this sword you shall chastise the wicked and do the righteous honor, and every act you shall perform shall be in service of our Savior and Redeemer. The scepter, a magnificent piece of craftsmanship, was ready to be bestowed. This symbol of the emperor's wisdom and authority was made of solid gold. On the flat bar at the end is written in Hebrew letters the ineffable and mightiest all the names of God. This great name stands in the middle of the pentacle, a magical and mystical symbol which was in use in the 4th millennium BC. The pentacle was cut out on the wonderful Shamir stone, which was set in the famous ring of King Solomon. The great name allowed him to work miracles, and the pentacle gave him power to destroy all the evil influences which the devil and their servants on earth could bring against him. The conquering lion of Judah was the 225th king in the Solomonic line. On the right side of the length of the shaft was engraved in Amharic the words of Psalm 68, verse 31. Ethiopia shall stretch forth their hands unto Jah. On the left side of the shaft was engraved in Ethiopic, the old ecclesiastic language of the country, the name and title of the king. The scepter of Haile Selassie I, King of Kings of Ethiopia. After this reading, Ancient Bongo Isaac declared in a strong and thunderous voice, "The scepter of thy throne, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, is a righteous scepter. Thou lovest righteousness and hatest wickedness. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. Then shall be in the gathering of the people. Through His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, Jah Rastafari, the Almighty Jah, Creator of the universe, and Jah of love." The audience, then magnetized by the magnificence of the symbols and solemnity of the occasion, listened attentively when Ancient Bongo Tani uttered, "Thou shalt have dominion from seas to seas, and from the rivers even to the end of the earth." The keeper of the royal treasury, Ancient Irie Lion, then presented the symbolic rings to the two bishops, the one for the right hand, the symbol of earthly glory, the other for the left hand, the symbol of heavenly glory. Ancient Bongo Roy stepped forward and presented two glittering lances, after which there was a moment of silence, and then the priest commenced the chant of the Psalm 44 in perfect harmony. "We have heard, O Jah, what works thou have done. Thou art my Jah and my King of Kings. Deliver I, for we have heard, O Jah, what works thou have done." Bongo Mani then came forward and read the 20th Psalm. "Haile I Selassie I, hear I in the time of trouble. In the name of Jah, of Jacob, defend I. Send I help from the sanctuary, and strengthen I out of Zion. Remember all I offering, and accept I burnt sacrifice. Selah. Grant I according to thy own heart, and fulfill all thy counsel. I will rejoice in thy salvation, and in the name of Haile Selassie Jah Rastafari. The narration continued with Ras Ivai reading Psalm 151, a chapter not found in the King James Version of Bible. The high priest of Aksum came forward as the solemn chant, "Crown him," echoed from the angelical chanters, guided by the mystical touches on the repeater from Ancient Bongo Joe. "Bongo man, crown him, crown him. Nyabingi man say, crown him. Sun and moon bow down before him. Crown him, Lord of all." Following the splendid outburst of chanting, the words of the 45th Psalm were read. "Thine arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies, whereby the people shall fall under thee. Thy throne, O Jah, is forever and ever. The scepter of thy kingdom is a right scepter. Thou lovest righteousness and hatest wickedness. Therefore, Jah, thy Jah hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy fellows." Nyabingi man say, crown him. Congo man say, crown him. The narration continued, and Priest Vin approached the altar and uttered the 21st Psalm. "The king shall joy in thy strength, O Lord, and in thy salvation. How greatly shall he rejoice! He asked for life, and thou gavest it to him, even length of days forever and ever. His glory is great, in thy salvation, honor, and majesty hast thou laid upon him. For thou hast made him most blessed forever. Thou hast made him exceedingly glad with thy countenance. For the king trusted in the Lord, and through the mercy of the Most High he shall not be moved. May God grant that this crown of crowns be a halo of holiness and glory. May you, by your prayers, preserve your faith unshaken and unconquerable. May you be pure in heart, even as this gold is pure. And when this crown is laid aside, may you gain instead a crown of life eternal." The thunderous shouts of Jah Rastafari then resounded throughout the whole atmosphere. "All hail the power of Negus' name. Let angels prostrate, fall, bring forth the royal diadem, and crown him Lord of all. Nyabingi man say crown, Bongo man say crown him Lord of all. Amen, amen." The congregation then uttered the words of Psalm 101. "I will sing of mercy and judgment unto thee, O Lord, will I sing. I will behave myself wisely in a perfect way. O when wilt thou come unto me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. A forward heart shall depart from me. I will not know a wicked person. Whoso privily slandereth his neighbor, him will I cut off. He that has a high look and a proud heart will not I suffer." The narration continued. Especially moving was the moment when the utterance of Haile Selassie I was read. "I am the least of my brethren." All nations have to bow and crown him King of Kings. All nations have to bow and crown him Lord of Lords. For it was written in the book of Revelation. It was written in the book of Psalms. All kings bow down before him, for he is the King of Kings. Following the crowning of the emperor, they chant, "Ethiopian sons and daughters," ushered in the presence of Her Imperial Majesty for her coronation. After the bestowal of her ring, she received her crown to a splendid outburst of the Empress Menen chant, "Queen of Queens." The oaths of allegiance to the emperor, by the Crown Prince Asfawasan, played by Prince Aimari, touched the hearts of everyone as he responded to the Abuna, played in part by his father Rasase, with utmost sincerity. The ceremonial occasion was sealed with chants of Jah Ayla Little Face, Hosanna, and a wonderful chant for the coronation, written and performed by Ma Shanti, to the joy of the gathering. The Ises, however, went on for 9 days during torrential downpour. Thanksgiving to all the faithful who cherished such wonderful moments in time. Jah Rastafari. There is a picture of Rastafari matriarch Mama Yarna. Wisemind Publications.com